Hi there, welcome to episode 152 of the PassionKnit Spinner podcast. My name is Tracy. You can find me as Schnüffeltier on Ravelry and Instagram. There's a Ravelry group for the podcast. Please go and join. Thank you so much for being here. Today is not going to be a normal episode. I decided to do a kind of a special episode just about socks because that's all I've been knitting on lately. So I have a lot of stuff next to me, as you could probably see in the thumbnail, because I took a thumbnail picture, I think for the first time in my life, but it looked so nice when I put everything together. So I decided to do that. So my sock knitting mojo, if you are new here, you don't know that. If you've been here for a bit, you know, it's kind of like this, you know, it goes up and down and up and down. Right now it's at an all-time high and I'm really happy about it. Socks have always been my passion to knit, so I don't mind that at all. So let's start. I finished 8 pairs of socks so far this year. All of those 8 pairs were not finished. No, they were finished this year, yes. But I cast on all of them before the year started. My until this week, which you're gonna see later, I hadn't cast on anything new this year. So all of the things I'm going to show you have been on my needles for a while. The oldest one, it's the first one I'm going to show, I started 13 years ago. And the newest one I started, I think, in December. So let's do this. This is the oldest thing I'm going to show you. And I showed these before, I think, in my last episode. I'm just not sure if they were done because, you know, it's been a while. But these are the Rhiannon stockings. The pattern is a paid-for pattern by Cookie A. And they are cabled knee highs. I did the cables only to the point where the heel is because this foot is going to be in my shoe and no one's going to see it. So I decided to not torture myself for any longer because it's already took 13 years, you know, I just didn't want to put any more time into these. So that's what they look in the front. Here you can see it better. And one cable in the back, some shaping because, you know, it's knee highs. And so yeah, these are the absolute oldest thing I had on my needles. They've been cast on before I got married, which is a long time ago. And I knit these out of Schoppelwolle Admiral. And I do like them a lot. I love the color. I think they turn out so pretty. I knit the majority of these within 2 weeks. But you know, 13-year gap. 9. Look at 9. So yeah, oldest thing off the needles. It's knee highs. I do have no blocker where I can show these off. So this will have to do. This is what they look like front and back. And I'm really happy with these, you know. So then after those were off the needles, they were not the first thing to finish. They're the first thing I'm showing you. I focused on these here. So out of these socks that I've knit this year, 4 so far are for me and the other 4 are for my gift box. And I want to show you how I put, what I put on the label. So I have done this for years now. I think I made my first labels to go around a pair of socks 14 years ago, and it just had little sheepies on it, you know, but I just revamped it this year and decided to put my own label on. So it says hand knit 4 from Tracy, size, and here it says how to wash it, you know, and the makeup of the yarn, what fiber is in there, and then the label that I had commissioned a few years ago and that I'm still very much in love with. So this is what I put on my socks. I have made it, I've formatted in a way where I have one DIN A4 page in the landscape, and I have 3 of those boxes right, you know, underneath each other. And I just cut the whole thing up, wrap it around because it fits around perfectly, put on some tape, and that's it. So this is what I wanted to show you, is what it looks like. Now, let's take it off so I can show you the sock. And for these, I did bring blockers. I'm just not sure if I should put them on because it's, you know, it's just vanilla socks, but let's do it. I have knit plain vanillas because that's my jam. You know, when it comes to socks, that's what I like to do. It's also an explanation why these cable knee highs took forever, because I just don't enjoy knitting socks with a pattern. But give me a sock of plain vanilla pair to knit and I can do it in 2 days, no problems. So this is the first pair, and I think this is actually the first pair that I finished this year. This was knit with yarn from my friend Sandra from Kunterbunte Wolle. It looks like this. I think these are so pretty. I've put them in my gift box for now, but it's my size, you know, and the label hasn't a name on it, as you could see. All the other ones I'm going to show you have names on them, but I took them off for. So that's the first pair. Plain vanilla, like I said, I always, plain vanilla socks for me, or, you know, women's, adult women's sizes. I always knit with 64 stitches, top down, on US 2 DPNs. I do not do magic loop, I don't do 9-inch circs, I don't do 2 circs. I knit with DPNs. I tried with magic loop, didn't like it, and that's fine because I love knitting with my DPNs. So that's the first pair. And yeah, it's how I knit my socks, you know. 64 stitches top down. I always do 20 rounds of 2x2 rip to begin with. Then I knit stockinette until the sock with the cuff is about 17 centimeters. Still talking about women's socks here. Then I do a traditional slip stitch heel flap and gusset. And then I knit the foot and I do my toe that I've kind of changed up a bit from what I learned back in the day when I first learned how to knit socks. So, there. Second pair. These are for me. It's a pair of hand-dyed yarn, self-striping, as you can see. The dyer is Ponderosa Wolle, which is a German indie dyer. And these are just so fun. This is, you know, these are very much my colors. It's orange and purple and green. Very me. I decided not to bother with the striping for the heel. Just knit my normal heel the way I always do, the length I always do, everything like always. And it turned out perfectly. I had started with the white, and when I finished and picked up stitches, I started again in the white. So there's no breaking here in the actual color sequence. So that's nice. I also made them the same. So I started them all both on the green color. And yeah, so these are for me. And I'm really happy with these. I think they turned out really nice. I love self-striping yarn. I used to do an afterthought heel or a forethought afterthought where you put in waste yarn, but I kind of stopped doing that because I don't really mind if the striping is a bit off, you know, and I just love the way this heel fits so much better. My, you know, the usual slip stitch heel that I do. So I've decided to just not do that anymore. Or use a contrast yarn for the heel to keep the color sequence the way it should be. Now, the next pair I have to show is another pair for the gift box. This yarn was Drachenwolle. It's an 80-20. It's a very soft yarn. As you can see, the first one starts out quite dark and the second one ends up very light. That is a phenomenon of hand-dyed yarn that I'm not a big fan of, to be honest. I do not like that. It was the other, it was similar with the other pair I showed before, but not as stark, I think. But you can really tell the difference. But they are pretty nonetheless. So this is a pair for the gift box. Like I said, Drachenwolle. Again, 20 rounds of rib, plain stockinette, my slip stitch heel flap and gusset. Not sure if you can see that. And then stockinette more stockinette, I mean, and then some toes. So that's my plain vanilla recipe. I've decided not to write it up because there's so many plain vanilla sock patterns out there, and a lot of them look very similar to what I do. So over on Patreon, I will write up a post, that's word. I'll write a post about plain vanilla socks, and I will link to some patterns that I think would work well, or tutorials. And so, yeah, I've decided against writing up my recipe because it doesn't add anything that's not there already. So it kind of feels weird to write it up. Now, the last finished pair of plain vanillas I have to show. I also need the larger blockers for it. So another pair for the gift box. The yarn I used for this is another German indie dyer. They've been so far all by German indie dyers, which does make me happy because there's lots of great German indie dyers out there. So this pair is knit out of yarn from Sockenwahnsinn, I think. I'm not quite sure. I think it was the only skein I had from theirs. I'm not even sure if they're still around because we used to have something like Etsy here in Germany, but it's gone. So a lot of the indie dyers, I think, went with it. So this is my 4th pair of plain vanillas for this year. It's also the 4th pair that I had started. I started all 4 of these on the same day last year in August, and I finished them this year. So this is in the gift box already. I love how it patterned, you know, the spiral effect that I got. And these are a bit larger still for the gift box. And I'm gonna show you here my slip stitch heel and my little gusset. So the way I do my slip stitch heel is probably like everybody else does. I do a slip stitch in the front, you know, like a chain stitch. Then I purl 2 stitches, and then I do the slip stitches all around, purl 2, do the chain stitch. And when I come back to it, I pick up out of the chain stitch, and that just disappears, and you're left with these purl ridges. But what I do, and that is how I learned back in the day, when I cast on my socks, I knit with DPNs. So I have 64 stitches, and on DPNs, that means 16 stitches per needle. And for the length of the heel flap, the chain stitches you're doing, you have 1 chain stitch on the edge for every 2 rows you knit. And you're knitting over 32 stitches because you have 64 in total. So if you knit 32 rows, you end up with 16 chain stitches, the amount of stitches you have on 1 needle. And that's what I do. So I knit my heel, and then I just count the chain stitches on the side, and when I have 16 for these socks, I do the heel turn. That's how I learned a million years ago. That's still how I do it. When I knit socks for my husband, I have 72 stitches. That's 18 stitches per needle, and I do 18 chain stitches on the side. And that leaves you with a shorter gusset, but that is how I like doing it. So like I said, I think the dyer for this yarn was called Sockenwahnsinn. I'm not quite sure. I think they turned out super nice. And yeah, that's the last finished pair of plain vanillas. Now I have some colorwork to show you because I've been knitting colorwork socks. Which like a year ago, I would have said you're crazy if you had told me, because pattern socks. But it turns out I can't drink coffee. Turns out I really, really, really like knitting colorwork socks. So I'm not, I don't like knitting textured sock patterns. I don't like knitting cabled sock patterns. I love knitting cables, not in socks. I do not like knitting textured sock patterns. And for one simple reason, when I knit socks, I want to just shut off my brain and go, which is impossible when you're doing a pattern. But for color work, that is very different. I love colorwork socks. So I have one pair here from my gift box, and it is a pattern by Andrea and Maury. It's called Spark Socks, I think, or Sparks. Not well, that wasn't planned. Okay, here we go. Spark Socks by Andrea Maury. Oh, and I just, great. Okay, here they are. This is what they look like. And they were so fun to knit because you only have to pay attention for the first bit, you know, and I mean, this pattern, you don't have to look at. You do it a few times and then you're like, ah, okay, fine. It's so easy. But I think it looks so nice. I used a skein of Regia Fluor Mania for these. And the fun thing is they actually do light up in the dark a bit. You know, they are a bit fluorescent. And the creamy natural is Dropsfarbe. So 2 commercial yarns made a wonderful pair of colorwork socks. Now I think I have to talk a bit faster because the sun is coming over. You know, it's just come up behind the mountain. And I really hope that was going to be quick enough, but we'll see. So, colorwork socks. They are Spark Socks. I knit these again on my US 2 DPNs top down. I changed the heel. It was supposed to be an afterthought heel, but I mean, with this pattern, I was confident that I would be able to knit the gusset in pattern, and I did. So yeah, just that is my modification for these. I used the stitch numbers and the charts, but did my heel and my toe. So they turned out really nice. I'm gonna make a second pair for myself with another skein of Regia Fluor Mania and black as the background color. And I think they're gonna be really, really pretty. So, the next pair I finished is a pair that I started 2 years ago, right around Christmas time. I had started the Advent colorwork socks, the ones that I've showed before with the blue ones. And I really liked it, the process of knitting colorwork on socks so much that I went looking for patterns, and I came across Drops patterns. And they do have a ton of really great colorwork patterns for socks. And I know that their practices of doing what's in right now is a bit questionable at best. But when it comes to colorwork socks, they've been doing these patterns for 20 years. You can go back forever and you can find beautiful colorwork socks there. So I decided to knit this pair, and it's a DK weight pair. It's called Chicken Feet because it was released in a Easter special, sort of. They don't really scream Easter to me, to be fair, but they turn out really nice. So the yarn that I used, the orange, is actually from Drops. It's Drops Charisma, the yarn the pattern calls for. The purple is a very strange yarn that I got off of eBay because it was shiny and I wanted it. I have no idea what it is. It was not nice to knit. It doesn't feel super nice. It was a total, you know, misstep when I bought it, but it turned out rather nice in these socks. And the vanilla-y light yellow is Rowan Lightweight DK. And it is quite a bit thinner than the other 2 yarns, but because I just used it such small amounts of it, I don't think it really matters. These are not machine washable, and they are, for me, because of that, because I do not want to give non-machine washable socks to people. And I'm just going to use them as normal socks, you know, when I'm wearing tights and a skirt maybe, so I can show off the pattern a bit. They were knit on a US 6, that's a 4mm needle, and I really like how they turned out. I think they turned out really nice. It's DK weight socks, like I said. I don't really do those normally because I am a very hot person, you know. So I usually go for thinner stuff, but I just like these. And I had the yarn, you know, I had one skein of this, one skein of the purple, and just a skein of that. So yeah, that's these socks here. And now the last pair that is done for this year is another pair of colorwork socks. And I think these are the prettiest socks I have ever knit. They are called Zwergenaufstand. They are from a German designer called Ducati. Katharina, I don't know, Ducati. And they look like this. They have this beautiful snowflakey pattern that goes, that's on the leg. And also, I just put this one on crooked so you can see the whole front. And also down the foot, you know, this is just one nice continuation. And on the back, and that is why it's called Zwergenaufstand, you have the gusset basically on the bottom of your foot, and in the gusset you have a gnome, and it is so cute. I also really like the pattern around the gnome. So yeah, these are the best socks I've ever knit. They turned out so pretty. They're so cute. Now, when I started these, I was on the brink of freaking out because the pattern calls for a super tight gauge of 38 stitches per 4 inches. And I get, with color work, without color work, it doesn't really matter. With color work, I have 32 stitches. Without color work, it's like 33, 34. So, yeah, I have, like I said, 32 stitches for 4 inches, and she calls for 38, which means that my socks are a bit bigger and quite looser, more loose. The problem is I was afraid that they would be way too big. Turns out they're not. I'm pretty sure if I had hit gauge, they would not fit me. So I'm quite happy with how it turned out, you know, all in all, quite nice. For the next pair that I'm going to make of hers, because I really want to make more. She has so many wonderful colorwork sock patterns. I will do the rib with less stitches and then increase, because this rib is really, really wide. So the yarns that I used. This yarn is Socks Yeah from PassioKnit. The dark brown is Eden Cottage yarns in a BFL base, and the lighter browny creamy wheat color, not sure what to say, is from my friend Sandra from Kunterbunte Wolle. Aren't these the prettiest socks ever? I mean, look at this pattern. This pattern alone is just so nice. They're so pretty. I need to knit more colorwork socks. I really love the process. So that's gonna happen. But before that's gonna happen, I'm gonna knit a lot of non-colorwork plain vanillas, because that's what I love to do. And because I love it, I've decided to do that. I had finished all of the socks. So all of the socks you've seen so far had been started at least last year. I think the last pair that I actually cast on were the Zwergenaufstand socks that I just showed, and I cast those on Christmas Eve. That was my Christmas Eve cast on. So everything sock-wise was done, but I'm really in a sock mood. But I hadn't started anything this year. And then I contemplated, and it was like, it's been 75 days since I cast on anything. Should I try to go to 100? Then I talked to my husband, and he was like, that's kind of dumb. I'm like, but that would be an achievement. And he said, yeah, but 75 is an achievement. 50 was an achievement. Why 100? What significance does the number have? It doesn't have any. You've gone so far without casting anything on. Now you want to, so do it. And of course he was right, because he's always right. No, he's not, but you know what I mean. So I did. And in true Tracy fashion, I went completely overboard, because I'm an obsessive person. I am. And I have cast on some socks. Can you see all of them? So this thing here is actually a bread basket. It's my sock basket. Has been my sock basket for quite a while. I'm going to talk you through all of the socks that I started. And I'm going to start with the one pair that's not in the basket. and that is the least interesting one of them. It's this here. I'm not even gonna unravel it, you know. I already started the heel. I knit 2 rows, so it started. These are gonna be a pair of shorty socks for my sister. Her birthday is in 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks. So the yarn that I decided to use is Southwest Trading Company Tofutsis, a yarn that was all the rage like 12 years ago, 15 years ago. It is a 50% superwash wool, 25% soy silk, 22.5% cotton, and 2.5% chitin. And yeah, my sister is very sensitive, so this is very soft and doesn't feel like wool. So I'm using this, and I'm making shorty socks for her birthday. So yeah, it's not very interesting. And here's the label. I've had this in my stash forever. I'm quite happy to finally have cast on. Now, onto my basket. Let's start with the last pair I cast on because it's on top. So here's the last thing that I cast on. The yarn is Eden Yarns. It's, as you can see, a hand-dyed self-striping yarn. And this is how far I've gotten. I am knitting all of these on US2 DPNs, all different brands. So we can talk about sock needles while we go along here. These needles here are from Holz und Stein, and they are Veilchenholz. Are they? I think they are. Tulip wood, not quite sure. So yeah, this is a skein of hand-dyed self-striping yarn. Here is the label. It's Eden Yarns. And the colorway is Springs, which is, you know, appropriate because it's spring right now. So that is that. Last pair, I cast those on yesterday evening while I watched Shameless with my husband, my new favorite show. And now you go here. I have another pair of yarn of socks started also from Eden Yarn. Eden Yarn or Eden Yarns? Eden Yarns. And this one is a gradient sock set. The colorway is Harper. And so for these, I'm going to show you, I have both started. They're both probably at the same point. So show one. I'm going to show you one in total. So this is the gradient. It goes from a teal over a lighter minty color to a lavender and to a sandy brown and a beige. My plan for this, I'm going to knit them just my normal sock pattern, top down, everything like always. But the heel, I'm going to use the yarn from the inside because otherwise it wouldn't be in the sock. You know, I'm not going to use up a full 50 gram skein for a sock. So I'm going to knit my sock like normal, but use the beige from the inside for the heel. And then I will probably finish the sock somewhere in the purple. Not sure yet. For these, I am using Knitter's Pride Dreams needles. They are pink in the US2s. They are different colors for each size. And these are really good needles. I do like them a lot. So, and because this is a sock set, you know, where you have 2 50 gram skeins, I just started both of them because it made sense to me. So that's what I did. Then I'm gonna show you this one here. This skein of yarn was hand dyed by Vicky Vera. I got this a while ago and I'm really happy with it. I think this is turning out so pretty. It looks like, for me, it kind of looks like when you have, you know, one of those just pieces of cotton fabric where you put clean your brushes on. That's what this looks like to me. So it's really pretty. This pair I'm knitting on Lücke needles, which I quite like. And yeah, again, 64 stitches, top down, all of these, 64 stitches, top down, my usual recipe. And so the 3 pairs I've showed so far are for me. There's one more for me. I'm going to show that next so that we're, stay in line here. And this is my own hand spun yarn. It is a, what are you? It's an 80-20 merino silk, so it's not superwash, which doesn't bother me because hand spun socks are the best thing ever invented. They are just magical. And I only ever wear my hand spun socks when I had a shower in the evening and I know I'm going to stay up for like 2 hours before going to bed. And I'm going to spend those 2 hours sitting somewhere with my feet up. That's when I crank out my hand spun socks. So this is what it looks like. And I mean, I'm really happy and very proud of this yarn because it turned out so even. And that, yeah, it's perfection. I am knitting these on Holz und Stein needles. I'm not sure if you can ever see that. Probably not. Doesn't matter. The Holz und Stein, the yarn is Amarello. And these are, I think, my absolute favorite needles ever. I do love Holz und Stein in general, but this specific wood. So these 4 were for me. I now have 3 more that are not for me. They will go into my gift box. I just have to decide what size to knit them sometime. Now, here's the first one. This is Woolen Vine Yarns. It is one of her old yarns because I got this when she first started. The colorway name is Xel Ha. I have absolutely no idea what that means. And this is what it looks like. It's okay. Turns out pretty. This, I think, is Rosewood. Also Holz und Stein. And yeah, so that's this. Like I said, it will go into my gift box. Here's the label. I'm also kind of considering putting up some socks when they're done on my Etsy shop again, or just say that they are up for grabs on my Instagram because Etsy fees have skyrocketed. Let me tell you, it's not funny. One of the reasons why I never reopened my shop. Now this one here is a gift for a birthday. I really like this. It's called Bergwiese or Allgäuer Bergwiese, which is a field here around with the wild flowers on, and it's from Ulis Wollzauber. It's a 75-25, just normal sock yarn. It's very soft, very nice, and this is a gift for a friend. I love how it's knitting up. It's super nice. The needles in here are one of my all-time favorite, go-to sock needles, and they are Xiaogu bamboo needles. I only knit with wood because I'm a very tight knitter, and I find when I use metal needles, my knitting is even tighter. I cannot knit with metal. And now the last skein of yarn that I have to show, or the last started pair of socks, let's say it like that, is this here. This was a de-stash from my mother because she recently got rid of a lot of her stuff because she doesn't knit that much anymore. So I got this one, and it is a super nice, bright, turquoisey, deep sea blue. It just reminds me of the ocean somehow. And I also, when I looked at it, I was like, I do love it, but I think a full sock out of this is gonna look a bit boring. So I decided to pair it with this super nice Lion brand yarn that I had in my stash, but I think it doesn't look like it when you look at it now. But in this yarn, there's so many speckles in here And there are some in this green, can you see? And I am really happy with my decision because I think this is going to be a very pretty sock. I'm going to do contrast cuffs, heels and toes. I really like doing that, but some yarns just don't really want that. You know, for some yarns I wouldn't bother because I mean, as you can see, none of the other pairs have it. But for this blue, I just felt like it, and I think it was a great decision. So these will go into the gift box or my Etsy shop, or I don't know yet. I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is that I have so many socks that I really don't need any, but I want to keep all of them at the same time, which is, you know, paradoxical. So yeah, I'm not sure. I just don't know. So now that I've showed you all of the yarns that I've already cast on, I'm going to show you 5 more skeins that I want to cast on. And I have them in here in this nice IKEA something. It's from IKEA. It's a wooden bamboo-y plate. And I have 5 skeins of opal sock yarn in here. And you're probably wondering how many sock needles I have. I can tell you. What I have on the needles now filled up maybe half of my needles, because I have a ton of sock needles. Because first of all, I love knitting socks. The last pair I showed was also on Xiaohu needles, by the way. So I have a ton of sock needles because I love knitting socks mainly. And then when there's, you know, when some new needles are released, I usually, when they're wooden, want to get them to try. And then I get 2 sets because, you know, if it's a situation like this one here, where I'm knitting 2 at a time, basically, I want them both to be on the same needle, because everything else just doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, I have a lot of sock needles, and I will probably continue buying sock needles because I love knitting socks. And I recently had to get rid of some, you know, because after years and years and years of use, they tend to bend or splinter and stuff. So I have to rotate a bit. Now let's go back to this one here. This is 5 skeins of opal sock yarn, and I love opal sock yarn so much, and I kind of felt like casting on some commercial socks as well. So first up, 2 skeins that I have decided I will knit for myself, and I have the needles ready to go as well. So this yarn here doesn't say a color because that was from an old opal club. And the needles in here are Knit Picks Majestics. No, they are not Majestics. They're the purple, the tealy ones, the green ones. I have no idea what they're called. This one is definitely going to be for me because it's brown and gray and I love it. This is, you know, it's very much me. And the other one, not very much me. I don't think so because of the blue in it, but I love this yarn so much that these are going to be for me. And I'm pretty sure that I got this at either at their shop or in a D-stash. And in here I have Xiaohu needles ready to go. So these are going to be for me. And I'm actually considering for this one to do contrast heels and toes, either in a gray or a dark brown. So I'm not quite sure yet, but I think that would look nice with this particular skein. Then I have they're all, I think, from opal clubs. Now it says club, didn't before. So this here is going to be a pair of socks that I need for a birthday gift. Needles in here are Clover. And then I have 2 more that will end up in the gift box. This one here is, and that's Xiaohu's, and these are Clovers. Okay, so these are Xiaohu needles, a very old skein of opal sock yarn from the Opal Abo, or the club, you know. And on here, that's how I know that it is very old. It says Kollektionsentwicklung, which means like, you know, trial skeins. And it didn't say on the, it said that on the very old ones, then it didn't say anything. And now it says club. So, and this one is the the exact same as the brown, just in the purple. And this is definitely going to go into my gift box. So, and the needles are clovers. So that's the 5 yarns that I still need to cast on. I'm probably going to do that over the weekend. And then I'm going to have like what? I have 8 pairs on the needles right now, 9 socks in total, I think. Yeah, I have 9 socks on the needles already for 8 pairs because, you know, of the gradient set. So add on 5 more, that makes what? 14 socks on the needles. I think that's doable. You know, I'm a sock knitter. I don't feel like knitting anything else right now. I don't want to cast on anything else. I don't want to knit on any sweaters. It's just like, eh. So I'm going to do what I enjoy. And I enjoy sock knitting right now. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm not going to do any of my other normal stuff. I will not talk about reading or watching or anything. So I just wanted to talk about socks today. That's what I did. So I'm going to go. I have no idea when I will be back because, you know, lockdown, kindergarten, no kindergarten, stress. We're going to take it as it comes because we can't do anything else. So let me know if you're a sock knitter, and keep an eye out on my Patreon for the plain vanilla sock talk that I want to do over there. So yeah, I think that's it. I hope you all have a wonderful time. Enjoy everything you do. Bye.